Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, one and all, to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes. Glad to have you with us this morning. It is Thursday, the 9th of October 2025. Well done on making it this far. So we've got in the chat, we've got Scott, we've got Sarah, we've got Chris C in there, we've got It Ain't Half Hot Plum, Plum Duff there. We've got Richard Grumpy Git. We've got Chris C in there as well. We've got Blah Blah CW, C Dizzy Dizzle, who I met last week. Hey, C Dizzy Dizzle, how you doing, mate? Nice to see you in the chat this morning. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, nice little group that we've got online, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for just one minute, and then you'll be able to join us. But this is, like I say, this is a friendly group. We're going to have no bigotry, no xenophobia, no homophobia, no transphobia. You know, we're very woke here, right? And if you're not woke, you can fuck off and go on a diet without the tea. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about the breakthrough in Gaza. Some might say, this is a great day, possibly, caveats, asterisks, a great day for Gaza, but it's certainly a great day for Trump's ego. So, let's talk about it. After 2 years to the day of a war in Gaza, an agreement has finally been reached between Israel and Hamas. Donald Trump has announced that both sides have agreed to the first phase, it might become important later, the first phase of his so-called Gaza peace deal. It promises the release of all remaining living Israeli hostages and a swap of Palestinian prisoners, the withdrawal of Israeli forces to a line. They're not withdrawing completely from Gaza, they're withdrawing to a line, and the entry of aid into Gaza, which might be one of the most important parts of all this for most people in Gaza who are suffering now through lack of food and nutrition and water and medicine. But Trump is obviously, saying this is all him. But is he simply taking a bow for a deal that Egypt and Qatar and others spent months, if not years, stitching together while he, went after domestic terrorists in his own country, like people who are anti-fascist. So now, if you're anti-fascist in America, according to Kirsty Noem, you are you're who's head of ICE. If you're anti-fascist, you are somehow pro terrorism. Yeah, I know. It's a lot. It's a lot. So anyway, so this is the breakdown of this. So there's an Israel's government is having a meeting this afternoon, which will be at 12 British summertime, to approve the plan. There'll be immediate ceasefire if they do, and Israeli forces will be forced to withdraw. They will not be forced to. They will withdraw to an agreed line within 24 hours. Hamas will release the 20 surviving hostages, while Israel will release 250 Palestinian prisoners and 1,700 Gazans who have been detained since the war began. Israel will allow 400 aid trucks per day, a crucial lifeline after the UN declared famine in Gaza City back in August. And the US claims all hostages will be released by Monday. Hamas might move earlier. Now, it's important to bear in mind this is a ceasefire, not a peace treaty. But then again, technically speaking, it was only a ceasefire between North and South Korea. That war's still going on. The war between North and South Korea has never been successfully concluded in a peace treaty. It's just a ceasefire at the moment. But many contentious issues still are left unresolved at this point. And this is why we're talking about this being the first phase. Like, who governs Gaza? Will Hamas disarm, which is what the Israelis want? What happens to reconstruction funds? And how much influence will Trump exert over the next phases, which if they don't work out, of course, Trump's going to blame everybody else. He'll take the credit for the wins and he'll duck out of the losses and blame someone else, because that's what narcissists do. Veg Pie, thank you so much for the first super chat of the morning. That's very kind of you. Veg Pie's dropped £2 in, saying, "Release the sausages!" Release, which famously was said by... we were watching it together, weren't we, Veg Pie? That was Keir Starmer's speech last year at the conference. I'm going to talk a little bit later about Kemi Badenoch's speech when we get into the papers, because the papers are like, I mean, it was a shit speech, right? It was thin gruel at the best of times, and yet the papers are celebrating it like it was the fucking Gettysburg Address or something. It's quite an interesting thing to see, and one of the things that I want to get into later is to talk about how the old school establishment, which is represented by the Conservative Party, it may look like the Tories are shriveling and dying on the vine, but they still do exert a lot of influence over the old school media, more so than Nigel Farage does. Nigel Farage is good at sort of grabbing headlines, but newspapers that fawn, newspapers that like, "Oh my God, you're the best. Oh, the steely will of the new Iron Lady. Oh, Boris, come and sort out all of our problems in our marriage." It's like they might report on what horrible things Farage is doing and saying, but we'll come back to this. But fawning over him, no, that's reserved for the Conservatives. Anyway, so Veg Pie. I guess the Conservatives pay better. I don't know. So the real peacemakers in this are Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, possibly a little bit of Saudi Arabia as well. So Qatar has been the main conduit for indirect talks between Hamas and Israel for the last 2 years. Doha hosted the earlier ceasefire drafts and prisoner lists. This is going back into the Biden administration. Egypt played a pivotal logistical role, securing safe corridors, coordinating prisoners transfers, and brokering troop withdrawal perimeters. And don't forget, this ceasefire was negotiated in Cairo. It was negotiated in Egypt. Turkey has helped pressure Hamas's political wing to accept the deal after Iran's influence waned. So they've sort of stepped into where Iran has sort of not severed its ties entirely, but because of the strikes against the regime in Iran, they've been less willing to push Hezbollah, Hamas, and Houthi rebels in Yemen, because they just haven't had the logistics, they just haven't had the money to do so. We've got the U.S. State Department under Secretary Marco Rubio, just basically following their lead, and Trump did a dramatic note during the meeting. It was just pure political theatre. It wasn't, it's like Britain taking credit for the talks between the ANC and the apartheid regime of South Africa in the early 90s. Yes, they were brokered in Britain. Yes, representatives from the apartheid regime and also representatives from the ANC, most notably Thabo Mbeki, came to the UK, and they were put up in like a stately home, and they went through the negotiations of how a post-apartheid South Africa would look. But, Britain helped, but it was really down to the two sides negotiating, and also pressure from across the world. And it's interesting because we didn't really take that much credit for that. If Trump had been in charge of the UK, we would have never heard the end of how the UK was the one country that brokered this deal that allowed for the end of apartheid. Britain conquered apartheid like we conquered slavery, and the actual reality behind those two things is quite nuanced and not quite not quite what you're thinking, or not quite what Trump is thinking, but whatever. It's not so straightforward as that. Contrast with this with Trump's Truth Social post last night, which is he in all caps, "Blessed are the peacemakers." He wants the Nobel Peace Prize. He's dying. He thinks he's going to heaven and blah 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 blah. But before we go on, we've got a mega chat coming. A mega chat, an actual mega chat. Amazing. Thank you so much. It ain't half hot, Plum. Thank you so much, Plumduff, for the £50 mega chat. That is absolutely amazing. Just so you know, anything up to 50 quid is a super chat. Above that is a mega chat up to 100 quid. Then we have a hyper chat, which is over 100 quid, and then 200 quid, which I think is the max that you can drop as a thing. That's as a super chat is an ultra chat. I think we've had 2 ultra chats in the time I've been doing this channel, and thank you for everyone who's contributed in the past. But here's 50 quid from It Ain't Half Hot, Plum. Thank you so much. You help keep this channel alive. That is amazing. Thank you. I sat on the sandy beach at sunset on beautiful Prestatyn Beach. Only you beautiful people beat that beauty. This fantastic group. Love you all. Mighty Graham Hughes Army. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Plum. That is really kind words, that. And yeah, sometimes you just got to sit down and watch the sunset. There's so much beauty out there. There's so much life. There's so many vibrant colours and stories to tell and places to sit and watch the world go by. And I really do appreciate the people in this chat, like Plum Duff says, who are just, just a fantastic group. You are all fantastic, and we all have our struggles that we're going through, I know, and it's just wonderful to see that we come together, every day. Pretty much, and talk about what's going on in the world in a friendly and respectful manner, and we're not calling each other names all the time and telling each other how fucking stupid we are and all that kind of shit that you get elsewhere on the internet. I'm really proud of this community that we've built on this channel over the last few years, and I'm just so grateful, really, for you being out there, not just Plum Duff, but all of you. You help keep my feet on the ground, and you help keep me sane. Because I was talking about this to Catherine last night when we were driving back from town, and I just said, if it wasn't for Politics Social, I would just be bending her ear all of the time about politics. And I get it, that I've seen a few commentators on TikTok talking about how people who aren't interested in politics, you need to get interested in politics. You need to care about this stuff. This is the stuff that's affecting you. You can't just complain about why are my bins being emptied? Why isn't this being done? Why are the potholes in the road? It's all politics. And I'm like, yeah, but there's 2 important things that we have to remember. Some people are busy, right? Are really fucking busy. They're getting on with their lives. And I feel this when people say, oh, why don't young people vote? And I'm like, they're getting on with their lives. At that age, you're in your early, late teens, early 20s, and everything is going on. You're in university, you're starting your first job, you're trying to get on the housing ladder, you're in a relationship, you've just failed, your relationship's just fallen apart, you're trying to get another relationship, you're trying to discover who you are and what the voice that you want to put in the world. We've also got social media now, which is another aspect of life that we never used to have to worry about. But there's so much going on. You want to go out. You want to go to parties. You want to go to clubs. You want to go to bars. You want to go to restaurants. You want to experience life. You want to travel. There's a lot going on. And the other thing is this, and I say this to everyone watching this as well, your mental health has to come first. If all this shit that's going on in the world is getting on top of you, take a break. And I know that friends on the chat here have done that in the past, and that's absolutely fine. Come back when you're ready. But when I've got friends, and I've got dear friends who I love, who do not read the news, who do not take a notice of what's happening in politics, who do not, read newspapers, do not go to news websites. And I know why they do it. They do it to protect their own mental health. And that's fine. That is fine. I tell you what, I will shoulder the burden. Oh, I'm such a hero. I will shoulder the burden of reading the fucking news headlines for you every day, so you don't have to. But yeah, when people do ignore the news, it's not necessarily because they're being lazy or they're evil, in some way. It's not that at all. It's not that at all. Usually it's one of 2 things, or maybe both. They're very busy getting on with the everyday life that most of us, have to deal with, but it's more intense when you're younger. It really is. And we forget that. I think as you get older, you kind of forget just how intense it was when you were a kid. And the other thing is looking after yourself and looking after your mental health. You have to put the mask on yourself before you put it on the person next to you. Because you're no good. You're no good to be dead, as they like saying in hot action movies. I feel we're in the interested in politics bubble, but it is what it is. Yeah, Scott, we are the interested in politics bubble. So what? I don't force people. One of the things that I always feel is like coming from Liverpool in particular is that I'm supposed to take more of an interest in politics than I actually do. Genuinely, like sorry, politics, football. I meant football. There you go. There's a footballification of politics for you. It's very early in the morning. Because I'm come from Liverpool, I'm supposed to take more of an interest in football than I do, and I don't. Like, I can't name the entire Everton team. I can just about name Jack Grealish because he scored the goal at the weekend. If it wasn't for the fact that David Moyes was the manager for a long time and now he's back, I'd have difficulty listing all the managers we've had since he left. Now he's come back. But people expect me to care more. People expect me to take a real interest in the football, and I don't. I take a passing interest, and I think a lot of people are like that about politics. They're like that about the news. If they're feeling up to it, they'll have a breeze through the news headlines. They might read a few articles, but nothing so in depth that they're going to talk about it for an hour every morning to chew someone's ear off about it. So yeah, I don't expect people to like the same music as me. I don't expect people to like the same movies as me. Although I'm yet to meet someone who doesn't like Shawshank Redemption. I'm sure that will happen at some point. Yeah, I understand we're all different and we all approach life in different ways. And to me, like I've said many times in the past, this is therapy. This is being able to talk about what's happening in the world with a group of like-minded individuals who, peacefully and calmly going through. Well, usually calmly. I know. I have a predisposition for ranting now and again. Yeah, it's all in good humour, and I try and keep things a bit bubbly and a bit sort of light, even when we're discussing some quite serious topics. And then it doesn't get much more serious at the moment than this war that's been going on between Israel and Gaza for the last 2 years, a very one-sided war. Going back to Trump and his, he's taking all the credit for this, but the reality came. This breakthrough came from our diplomacy, quiet back channels, and months of humanitarian pressure. That's what really made the difference. It wasn't Trump, and it wasn't people protesting for Palestine action. That wasn't it. Going out with a sign saying I support Palestine action, that didn't achieve this. And I wish people had just put, I support Palestine. You didn't need the word action on the end of it. You wouldn't have got arrested. I know that wouldn't have been as dramatic, and it wouldn't been making the story all about you. But I still, for the life of me, can't understand why that was so necessary to defend the group rather than defending. You had the choice. You're going out with a placard. You can defend the Palestinian people who were being slaughtered, or you could defend a group of British people who broke into a military base. Okay, which helped nobody. It doesn't stop the war. Didn't help with negotiations. Didn't do shit except cause a lot of damage that the taxpayer's going to have to pay for. And and while I agree that people who say they shouldn't be designated as a terrorist organization, if they're not going to tell us why, I completely get that. But you've only got so much time. You've only got so many protests to go to, and if your objective to go to a protest to help the people of Palestine, to shine a light on what is happening in Palestine and in Gaza, is to get yourself arrested, I don't know. It just seems like they're just digging in the wrong place. Do you know what I mean? But dig a hole somewhere. Great, you dug a hole. It's not helped anyone. Can't put a fence post in there. Anyway, so there's also the Trump angle with this comes from the pressure that he can put on to Netanyahu. But here's the thing. I don't think that it would have been any different had Biden still been president, or if Kamala Harris had won the election last year. America could still put pressure on Netanyahu, would have grown just as impatient as Trump. And, this, from the looks of things from the outside, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but for me, this comes across as less of a master plan by Donald Trump than a sort of last minute push for credit for someone else's work. Let's talk about Netanyahu for a moment. BB, the criminal mastermind of the Gaza invasion. He initially resisted the deal, fearing backlash from the far right and accusations of weakness. And Trump has allegedly used the power only America has to twist his arm. But like I say, I don't see any difference. If there had been any other leader of America, they would have done the same thing, I believe. I mean, I might be wrong, but I couldn't see them getting this close to a deal and America not strong-arming Israel into it. But of course, Ben Gvir, who's an absolute gobshite in the Israeli government, he's already attacking the deal, calling it a surrender. Whereas Netanyahu's saying it's a great deal for Israel, whereas Israeli media, or some parts of the Israeli media, are hinting that he was forced into it, which, whatever. But there has been joy in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, with fireworks and tears and cautious hope or optimism that the last 20 hostages who are still alive actually get released. And the hostage families are expressing gratitude that but they are demanding that the deal must hold. And there's a quote from Dalia Kuznia, who said, "Until the last hostage is home, we're not opening the champagne." Sorry. She's a relative of a hostage who's still being held in Gaza. And the reaction in Gaza has been one of relief, clearly, also, but loss and uncertainty. There was an interview with on the BBC with Hannah Al-Mahoun, who was a displaced mother of 3. She said that it's a miracle. I feel relieved and optimistic. I hope to go home soon, which is something that I've heard so many times about from displaced people. Don't forget, when I was traveling in December 2012 across Lake Nasser between Sudan and Egypt, and then from Port Said to Iskenderun in Egypt to Turkey, I was traveling with a lot of refugees from Syria who were moving from Muslim country or Arabic country from one to the other because they got 6 months on their passports, and they were the entire family with everything they could carry. Imagine having to pack up the stuff from home. Imagine having to pack up like everything that you can, and then hit the road and just abandon your house and hope it's still there when you come back. But the one thing that I hear so much is, I hope to go home soon. I hope to go home soon. Most refugees would like to go back. The vast majority of refugees that I've met, and whenever people are surveyed, they want to go back. And that's how you can tell they're real refugees, as far as I'm concerned. Because, although there will be some who want to stay in the safety of a country that is safe, but the countries that they're fleeing from, like Eritrea, have never really been safe for anyone who's dissenting against the government. Ever since Eritrea got independence in the early 90s, the government has ruled that country with an iron fist, and you've been, step out of line. But once that government is out, I can see people wanting to go back. I can see people wanting to go back to their homes in North Korea. Even after all these years, people who left or displaced during the war in the 1950s, families who have, ancestral homelands up in the north, who would like to go back, but they can't while there's a bad man in charge. Paula, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. That's really kind of you. Because of the creep of the definition of terrorist towards anyone the government disagrees with, needs to be stopped. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Paula. I definitely do agree. And that is a huge issue. And they're handing, if they're going to curtail protests, if they're handing a potential Nigel Farage premiership a huge gift there. But then again, if heaven forfend Nigel Farage ever walks into number 10 as Prime Minister, they can change the rules anyway. We don't have a written constitution. We don't have that protection that we should against tyrannical rule. And that's why it's so important that Nigel Farage does not become the next prime minister or the next but one prime minister of the United Kingdom. Liam said, I had a unique work background of working security, stroke doors and front-facing hospitality roles. Ended up being the perfect candidate to look after dangerous clients who need love, attention and care. Oh, that's really nice, Liam. But yeah, I mean, most people in crisis situations, they might need medical attention, but if we're just talking about people who are suffering from anxiety or PTSD, yes, they do need professional care, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't get any care up to the point where they get professional care. And one of the things that we can do, and we can do this for our friends, for our family, our colleagues, our neighbors, is just listen. It's just be an ear. That's what the Samaritans is. It's just an ear for someone to explain what's going on. I mean, otherwise those bad thoughts, bad feelings, the everything just spirals inside, and that leads to worse health outcomes than if people are just listened to, are just given that opportunity to say their piece, to talk about what is going on in their life. And that's really important. And that's really, really important. And it's one of the reasons why I really want to push the Discord server for everyone who watches these shows as something that you can go and use and have those discussions and further the discussions where it's not just capped at 160 letters or whatever it is on the chat here. Before we jump into too much credit or opprobrium towards the orange PD Ufa, PD Führer. Oh, I see what you've done there. SG, I like it. Let's wait until the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize is announced on Friday, October the 10th at 5 a.m. Captain Coconut, the only thing I can say about fromage in democracy is that we do not realise what we have until we lose it. That's very true. And Chris saying, I was a ticket inspector with Virgin Trains and it was not fun dealing with drunken idiots. Thankfully, we had the wonderful British Transport Police backing us up. Chrissy, hence the reason on match days, Virgin Trains, who ran at the time, ran both the West Coast and cross-country services, had a no alcohol policy. Yeah, I kind of agree with that on match days. Anyway, so we're talking about voices from Gaza. We have another quote here from a woman called Rewa Moshan. I wish my mum and sister, who were killed early in the war, were here for this moment. We also have Shuha Shath, who says, until now, I don't believe it. We have survived this catastrophe. And despite the celebrations at the moment, cautious optimism, the devastation of the war remains. Over 67,000 dead, 500,000 starving, infrastructure destroyed, entire habitations, cities razed to the ground, infrastructure just laid waste to, and the fear that the withdrawal lines could lead to a de facto partition of Gaza rather than peace. Interestingly, Iran was shut out of these talks. A long-time backer of Hamas, the Iranian regime, was shut out of these talks, and Tehran's response to all this has been muted. They described the deal as a victory for Hamas, despite having no influence over it, or little influence over it. And analysts have said that this could signal a regional shift, with pragmatic Arab governments taking the charge, while Iran, Shiites, Iran, losing leverage. Don't forget, most of the Arab governments are Sunni regimes, not Shia regimes. There is the issue though. If Trump fucking brags too loudly, Iran may pivot and undermine future phases just out of spite. But then again, trying to keep Trump and his fucking theatrics down is another matter entirely. He has already hijacked the story. The deal was announced midway through a White House event on domestic law enforcement. Secretary of State Marco Rubio passed a note to Trump, and Trump left the room claiming he had to focus on the Middle East. 10 minutes later, he posted on Truth Social declaring a strong, durable, and everlasting peace, which is a bit optimistic, but there you go. Within hours, Fox News ran a segment declaring him the peacemaker of our time. And Trump now plans to fly to the Middle East this weekend to oversee the transition, which is really just going to be a victory lap. This is classic Trump pattern. He inserts himself into something at the 11th hour, takes a spotlight and weaponizes the narrative for political gain. And it's very convenient timing. I mean, the Gaza deal will have knocked off the headlines about the US economic slump, the Trump slump, off the front pages, but also the government shutdown, the eradication of rights. He actually said, Trump, yesterday, he's in a press conference or an interview or whatever, he said that he had successfully taken away freedom of speech. That's what he said. He said, we're taking away freedom of speech. Because people were abusing it, so he's taking it away. You know, the first amendment to the Constitution, taking it away. Imagine if a Democrat had said that. Imagine if a Democrat president had said, "Yeah, we've taken away freedom of speech." There's been some responses from leaders around the world. Keir Starmer has said a moment of profound relief. This may be a sustainable path to peace. Chuck Schumer, who's the minority leader of the Senate in America, a Democrat, he said a huge sigh of relief for Israel and Palestinians alike. The chief of the UN humanitarian chief, a guy called Tom Fletcher, he said, let's get the hostages out and aid in fast. And EU leaders are broadly supportive but cautious, warning phase one is not peace, which it isn't. It's just a phase. But we're building towards peace. That's the hope. The UN and the Red Crescent have stressed the need for safe access for aid convoys, and 400 trucks a day sounds like a big figure, but actually the reality is that Gaza needs at least twice that to stave off famine. And reconstruction is expected to cost tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars. And what comes next, peace or photo op, photo op. So the disarmament of Hamas, if that happens, I mean, first of all, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult getting these people who have been, guerrilla fighters all their lives, know nothing else, but also it's going to be very difficult to verify. It's going to be difficult for them to put down their arms in the first place. But how do you verify it? That's going to be difficult. You'll need peacekeepers from Qatar, maybe from Egypt, from a neutral, well, a third power, not from Israel. And who runs the transitional administration for Gaza? Is it going to be a UN mission, which I think would be a good idea, actually? The Palestinian Authority, under Mahmoud Abbas, I don't know. They're in charge of the West Bank, but they're not in charge of Gaza. Hamas is in charge of Gaza. I would want to see the UN go in, to be honest with you, to just bring stability to the area, and it can't be Israel. It just can't be Israel. I would much prefer it was someone who didn't have skin in the game. UN would be my preference, and then the Palestinian Authority coming across from the West Bank as my second. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kongian dollars. Greta Thunberg, who's been suffering abuse by the IDF, to get the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, that'd be great. That would really piss off the Trumpers, wouldn't it? Thanks for the super chat, mate. Yeah, just to go back to sort of what happens next. So, what the political implications of this? Like, Trump gains a propaganda boost, but the midterms aren't for another year. So, and the systemic problems that he's created in America are just going to get worse with the economy and the jobs market and the Farmageddon and everything else. Things are just going to get worse and worse for people in America. By the midterms, they're going to be fucking awful. The curtailment of freedom of speech. And then, Netanyahu gets a temporary respite from the domestic chaos that he's facing with the far right in government in Israel, and also the fact that he's a wanted criminal. He's a wanted international war criminal, and he's also wanted his own country to stand trial for corruption charges and bribery charges. Palestinians get relief at this moment, but not necessarily justice or sovereignty. So that this is a peace deal that, if it is built on Trump's ego, that is incredibly fragile. If it's built on the months and months and maybe even years of effort by the likes of Turkey and Qatar, Egypt and others, then maybe it will have legs. And the diplomacy is a messy and often thankless, and it's often done by people whose names we'll never know. The Egyptian generals, the Qatari diplomats, the field officers of the Red Crescent and the Red Cross. Trump's involvement may accelerate at the end game, but it also has politicized the peace and reframed it as a personal brand event for Trump. God, I can't believe we're here 10 years later and we're still talking about this motherfucker. Jesus Christ, what a fucking decade. What a decade, the Trump fucking decade. He's never out the news. Even when he wasn't president, he wasn't out the fucking news in America or the world. As ever, the people who pay the price are going to be the civilians in Gaza, in Israel, in refugee camps. And, if this doesn't work, then, the people who suffer the most from the failure to achieve a strong, durable peace will be the people down on the ground, as it always is. It won't be the millionaires. Won't be the billionaires, won't be the Trumps of the world, or the Elon Musks, or the Benjamin Netanyahus, to be honest with you. Anyway, blessed are the credit thieves. So there you go. So look, there is cause for cautious optimism this morning. There absolutely is. I don't deny that. And I'm very glad that we might be heading towards the end of this horrific chapter. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. That's all I can say at the moment. David says, I'm losing faith in the Grim Reaper. Is Trump even in this thing? Chris C, for threatening staff with a knife, the magistrates fined in the grand total of £100. And Chris, don't get me started on the horror show that is like people, aggressive men. It's usually men who are given these incredibly light sentences for creating trauma, real trauma for people working on the front line. I know you're talking about being a ticket inspector, but like I'm talking about people working in the NHS who are routinely threatened. Bus drivers who are threatened, and the people who do it sort of get away with it. They're not. I'm not saying they should necessarily be given a custodial sentence, but there's litter to be picked up. There's work to be done in the community. Make them do 1,000 hours of community service. Make them really pay for what they've done. Not £100. Not 100. The ticket probably cost £100. The ticket that they didn't pay for. I'm going to go over to the papers now, if that's okay with everyone. So first of all, it's really important that there was a really tall guy at the conference. This tall Tory, there he is with Kemi Badenoch. I am the tall guy, larging it with Kemi Badenoch. He's 7'2" or something, which is too tall. We've got. Is anyone watching this? Who's 7'2"? I'm not talking about you. It's too tall to be a Tory. Badenoch builds case to abolish stamp duty. So here we go. There's throwing some red meat to Tory voters everywhere. Let's be very clear. She's talking about getting people on the housing ladder. It's only you don't have to pay any stamp duty at all on your first home up to £300,000. Then you only pay 5% up to £500,000. Above that 300,000, and then above that £500,000, you pay standard stamp duty. If you're buying a second home, third home, fourth home, ninth home, like Nigel Farage, you're supposed to pay the full stamp duty. That's it. So when she's talking about getting people on the housing ladder, she means getting rich nepo babies who can afford their first house to be worth more than £300,000 to not have to pay stamp duty. Now, there is a part of me that does want a change round of the system. I think that you should have to pay tax on selling houses rather than buying them. I don't think stamp duty in the round makes much sense, especially for first-time buyers. I would like it abolished completely, but that opens the system up to abuse, where you have people like Nigel Farage, whose girlfriend, who works as a waitress, buys an £850,000 house in Clacton, and apparently she bought it cash out of her own money or something. Yeah, all right. SG, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's very kind of you. If they do give the Nobel Peace Prize to Trump, they might as well give it to Netanyahu and Hamas, because what would be the worth of it? Gandhi never got it. Yeah, Gandhi never got it, but Henry Kissinger did. Henry Kissinger got the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, let's talk about the Tet Offensive. Chris says, what's what pisses me off about the court system? I've been mugged by someone who was already on a suspended sentence. He was ordered to pay £50 compensation to me, £50 for a broken eye socket. Jesus Christ, Chris, that's awful, mate. I'm so hot. That's horrific. I'm so sorry that you went through that, and then you £50. Well, this goes back to when, one of the reasons why women very rarely get justice when they've been sexually assaulted is just the court system, and the fact that you've still got judges whose mentality, it seems to be, is like, oh, go on a nice holiday and forget about it. It's just, yeah, things need to change. Things definitely need to change. It's really awful, Chris, and I'm really sorry to read that. That is really, really shit. Hi, a young guy on location had 1.2 million to buy a first place, for fuck's sake, says Mr. Tisk. 1.2 million, first time buyer. Yeah. Which is why this will appeal to Tories, and we'll see it in the papers, and we need to talk about the response here, which is more obvious on other papers. Caitlin Moran on that J.K. Rowling Brew she's kind of demeaning I suppose she's talking about the spat between Emma thingy from Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, or XY Rowling as I like to call her. They're probably talking about that, but calling it a brouhaha sort of is a little bit demeaning, I think, Caitlin. I don't know if you should be calling it that. I don't know what Caitlin's view is on trans people, or whether she's a transphobe herself, but I just wouldn't be calling it a brouhaha. I mean, I might call it a spat or something, or fallout or whatever. But I certainly wouldn't call it that. Oh my God, Alistair, thank you. Alistair has bought, has shelled out for. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to go over to this screen actually, because I don't have my. Thank you, Alistair. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. You're all the best. I know it's a superlative, but I don't care. You're the best. Thank you very much, Alistair, for that, and welcome new members. You are all awesome. Well, there we go. Sorry, my usual setup. Welcome new members. The Cheese Factor, Wayne Lewis, the Villain Girls, Doc Davis, and Liam Fairhurst are now all members of the Politics Social Gang. So you're members now for 1 month, and you will gain access to the Discord server. Like I say, if you want to go there after the show and continue the discussion, you're very welcome to do so. But please, same rules as here. Be respectful. Don't call people names. Don't make people feel like their opinion is not valid. And just be nice. Just be nice. Be nice. Be nice, Nomadi. Ami says, sorry, off topic. Well, what country was the least developed but not subject to warlords or similar douchebags? What country was the least developed but not subject to warlords? I mean, the countries that aren't subject to warlords tend to be a little bit more developed than the others. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Bolivia, possibly. Bolivia had a lot of developing to do, but wasn't necessarily run at the time that I was there by some military junta or something. But Bolivia, possibly Paraguay as well. They're both landlocked countries, and it's difficult to make money as a landlocked country, unless you're Switzerland. Switzerland is such an anomaly. You're talking about a country that doesn't have a standing army, just sold out mercenaries to other countries around the world, then decided it was going to become neutral. And that was a very canny move in the 20th, well, even the 18th, in the 1800s, especially in the 20th century. They said, we're going to set up these bank accounts that you just get a number and no one can know what's in the bank account. So as things kicked off, World War One, World War Two in Europe, Switzerland got very, very, very rich indeed off the back of rich people in Europe not wanting to leave their money in French bank accounts or British bank accounts or German bank accounts, just in case they did, because the outcome of the war might not go the way they planned, and they didn't want their riches taken off them. So and then there's the diamond trade, which Switzerland dominates, along with Amsterdam, but Switzerland and De Beers go back a long way, and probably Bolivia, I'd say. I mean, there were countries in Africa that are really underdeveloped that didn't necessarily have a military junta or a strongman leader at the time I visited, but there wasn't much in it. You had countries like Guinea, which did have a strongman dictator, but then you had some place like Burkina Faso, which was nominally, progressive at the time. It isn't anymore, thanks to meddling by the Wagner Group and the Russians, and the fallout from the ISIS in the Sahara or the Sub-Sahara. Togo, Benin, Gabon. No, they had a strongman. Congo. I guess. There were a lot of countries that didn't necessarily have a particularly shit government, but they didn't have much because the nominally, notionally democratic government that ran the country was still saddled with the debt, the fallout, the PTSD of the fucking people that came before. The PTSD that they created. Chris C says, the moment I stepped out of line, a ton of bricks dropped on me from a great fucking height by the justice system. So I am slightly bitter. Yeah, Chris, that's a good point, mate. The point that that the justice system doesn't seem to fit for all. It's like for some people, they come down, for some things they come down on you like a ton of bricks, and for other things it's like just a slap on the wrist. And you're like, it doesn't necessarily, the crime, the punishment doesn't necessarily fit the crime for a lot of this kind of stuff. And one thing that drives me up the wall is, you say that someone had to pay 50 quid. I'd have to pay more than that for making a mistake parking my car. Reading the sign wrong. Oh, you had to buy a ticket and put it in the window of the car. Sorry, I thought it was one of them where you just pay on exit. I thought it was one of them where you pay when you leave rather than. So because I didn't understand the sign because it wasn't written in particularly clear English, and I was rushed and I was late for a meeting or something, I've got to pay a £50 fine for a mistake, for an innocent mistake. Or I'm driving somewhere I've never been before, and I enter a box junction not realizing that the cars in front aren't going to stop. Are going to stop. Just on the edge. So I'm that car at the back of the very end of the box junction. I can't quite get over. I can't get quite out, and I get snapped by a camera. £70 fine, £80 fine. So I get fined more for making that innocent mistake for fucking traffic flow. Like, who gives a shit? Like, you were physically assaulted, and it was a £50 fine, and I don't even disrupt the traffic flow because I'm already over the point where I'm not actually stopping the traffic from moving across the intersection. I'm just, I've got two back tires in the box junction. That's enough, mate. £70 fine. Or I've had it where I've parked on a street, right, which was just recently turned into a one-way street, and I parked at the side of the road. And you won't believe this. This was in London. It's on Holloway Road in London years ago. And I had to take photos because I couldn't believe it. And luckily I had my digital camera with me at the time. But it had, if from when traffic could go up on the left hand side, right? So I'd parked, so imagine a one-way street. I parked on the right of a one-way street. Okay. And from, the olden days when it used to be a two-way street, there are signs up saying free parking, right? So it's got the P in the blue, the P in the blue that we all like to see. Yeah. Free parking, right? But On the other side, that I couldn't see because it had just turned from a one-way street into a two-way street. It turned from a two-way street into a one-way street. Parking prohibited between these hours on the same lamppost. One side, free parking. Other side, parking prohibited. And there was bays marked out. It wasn't like I parked on a double yellow line or something. My car got towed. I had to pay 250 quid to get it out of the knacker's yard. 250 quid. And it was like, I did manage to get that back actually, but obviously having to go to the place, the yard where they keep the car and, you know, all that stuff, didn't get the money back for that. So I ended up losing probably about 40, 50 quid in the end because I had to, you know, I couldn't get on with my job that I was there in London to do. I was doing a filming job at the time. I couldn't make it to the filming job because I needed my car to transport all my filming kit. And yeah, innocent mistake. that was just like a honey trap or something to have a lamppost. And I took photos. I think I took like a short video, like walking around the lamppost going, okay, this side, free parking. Other side. Unfucking-leavable. So yeah, punishment doesn't fit the crime in so many circumstances. And I'm sure, Chris, like also, I mean, the fine for fare evasion on the is one thing when you're actively trying to evade paying the fare. But then I've been on the train. I got on a train once from Durham up to Newcastle, and there was a group of these girls from Germany, and clearly, you know, English is a second language. And they were on the train going from Durham to Newcastle, which I have to stress, this is a 15-minute journey, right? And there was nowhere to sit, right? Everyone was standing. It was standing room only, and they were standing there. And I was nearby, and the ticket inspector came over, and they said, "Can we get a ticket, please?" And they were like, and the ticket inspector, "No, you're supposed to buy it before you get on the train." And they all looked at each other and went, "We were told that we could get it on the train." And the ticket inspector's like, "No, I'm going to give you a fine." He wants to get them a fucking fine. And I stepped in and went, "Mate, come on. You know, that's not fare evasion. That is some tourists coming here, not understanding the fact that on every fucking platform, on every station, with every train operator in the country, the system is slightly different depending on where you are." Wanted to give them a fine, just let them pay. Just let them pay. It was like I think it was like a £4.50 fare. £4.50. I mean, oh my God, yeah, you've caught Carlos the Jackal, mate. Well done. And he wanted to get them all like £50 fines. It was just like, oh, for God's sake, man. They put a lot of cameras in the P parking spots to stop dogging. The bastards. Says Scott. A few years ago, when I was driving a tanker in London, says Sarah, I was given the wrong directions by my office, ended up having to drive through Blackwall Tunnel because I couldn't stop due to the red lines. Yeah. I've almost done that in Liverpool where I've just been in the wrong lane and I've nearly got into Kingsway Tunnel, but luckily I pulled over to the side and I said to the tunnel police, like, "Can I get out?" And they went, "Yeah, there's an escape lane." There's actually an escape lane just before the tunnel, so you don't have to go in there if you don't want to. But yeah, good point. And Colin saying, "I once got a ticket for parking legally on a pavement outside my house. A sign had been moved. The parking attendant thought it wasn't allowed. Happily, I got that rescinded." Yeah. And different rules in different places. So in London, if you have two tyres on the curb sides, you can get a ticket in a residential area. That is not the case in Liverpool. In Liverpool, you can on certain roads you have to put two tyres on the curb because otherwise, or two wheels on the curb because otherwise vehicles can't get past. Chris said, "I was a ticket inspector. It used to be a £35 fine or the cost of an open single, whatever is greater. However, I use discretion, usually could tell genuine mistakes from fare dodgers." Yeah, Chris, I mean, I'm sure that you could. And this guy, you know, give the ticket inspector credit. When I stepped in, I'm like, "Come on, mate, this is a bit, you know, it's £4.50, you know." And you know, the girls were willing to pay. They were just like, "Oh, I thought we could get a ticket on the train. I didn't know we had to get it beforehand," because yeah, they do have different systems in different stations. It's not like there's an area, and it's happened to me. You know, I've been on trains in other people's countries and I've fucked up. I've not got the right ticket, or I've not got the right. You know, I try my best, but you know, and the I don't think I've ever been given a fine. I've always been given the benefit of the doubt because I'm like, no, I genuinely tried to buy a ticket. Here's the receipts. Here's the, I thought that this was this train or whatever. And I think that it can be pretty obvious to ticket inspectors who's most of the time who's fare dodging and who is actually a genuine, a genuine asylum seeker on the train. Sarah says a few years ago, I've read that one. And Alistair, I got a £50 fine for 2 wheels on a bus lane because of roadworks last year. If I didn't pay it within 14 days, it went to 120 quid. If argued, it's lost and it's 250. Yeah. Well, I'm still bitter about the fact that the only speeding ticket I've ever had in my life, 30 years I've been on the road. 30 fucking goddamn years I've been driving. And I got a ticket a few years ago when I was coming back from Ukraine. I picked up, I had taken aid out to the refugee center on the border with Poland, Medyka, and I'd come back and bringing refugees, and I dropped them off at the mum's place in Germany, where the mum was staying, a couple of young refugees, and then driving back, me and Bear, and I'm on the M25. I am driving at 50 miles an hour on the inside lane because I don't give a fuck. I'm not trying to get anywhere fast. I'm just, chatting away with Bear. I think I was doing a live stream at the time. I had the live stream set up, and it was pissing down with rain. And I'm driving along and I see the gantry. I see it lit up, but because it's so bright, it's dazzlingly bright on these variable speed limit lanes, I assume that it's like 60 or 50 or whatever. It wasn't until I got like almost underneath it that I realized it was 40, but by then it was too late, and I was snapped on the empty motorway at 2:00 in the morning, doing 49 miles an hour on an empty motorway. No roadworks, no cones, nothing. It was just an empty fucking street. And I thought that I was doing 20 miles an hour under the speed limit. But no, it turned out I was doing 9 miles an hour over. And because that's more than 20% over the speed limit, I wasn't eligible for a waiver of the fine and the points on my license. I had, in lieu of doing safety awareness training or whatever, wasn't given that option, even though my first speeding ticket in 30 years of driving. Just like, fuck. 30 years of driving over 5 different continents. Wow. I honestly, I drive like driving Miss Daisy. I do not speed. I don't need to. I don't want to. It doesn't get me off. I don't like making me passengers feel uncomfortable. I don't like fanging it around corners. I don't trust cars. When I was a kid, like I told you, I worked at my dad's garage. I had to test drive these cars, right, that we've just fixed. I've pressed my brake down, I pressed the brake pedal and it's just gone down to the floor. Does that ever happen to you? It's fucking terrifying, mate. Fucking terrifying. You need to try and work down using the gears, and then you need to put the handbrake on, right, to slow down, to stop, right? That's happened to me, right? I've gone round corners and had a puncher going round the corner because the tyres were fucked. I've driven these old bangers, and I do not rely on cars at all. So these people, I'm not going to say dickheads. Come on, be nice, Graham. These people who razz up to the traffic lights at 40 miles an hour and then slam the brakes on at the last moment, throwing all their passengers forward like a bastard. They're clearly never experienced the feeling, the stomach dropping feeling of you pressing down on the brake of a car and it just going down to the metal and not actually stopping the car in any way, shape or form. And if you're razzed up to the lights and slamming on the brakes at the last minute, you are completely reliant on a bunch of mechanisms that may or may not work. And that to me is fucking irresponsible, because you need a plan B. If you're going around the corner or you're stopping your car or just doing anything, you need a plan B. What if I have a blowout? What if you're razzing around the corner of a fucking cliffside, up here in Durham or somewhere, because you can go at 60 miles an hour around the corner here, up on top of one of the hills. She's got like a little shitty fucking Armco barrier. That's not going to stop your car if you're going at it at 60 miles an hour. That's not going to stop your car if you hit it dead on. because your fucking steering breaks or your wheels lock or you have a blowout or something, you're going to go off the fucking edge and you're going to kill everyone in the fucking car. Just don't do it. There's no point. Just slow down. Just slow the fuck down. Fucking the 60-mile-an-hour limit round here pisses me off no end because there's no pavement in a lot of places. 60-mile-an-hour roads only wide enough for a tractor's width. Big hedgerows either sides, blind corners, blind risers. And it's 60 mile an hour. So all these dickheads in their souped up Ford Cortinas, razzing around these country bends. There could be someone on a horse. There could be a cow in the middle of the fucking road. You don't know. Could be a kid on his bike or her bike. You don't know. You don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to get over that. Seriously, after all this time, my first speeding offence, and my speed was 49 on a fucking empty motorway. Anyway, I remember my mum taking a Ford Granada sideways down a 15% decline on black ice. Yep, black ice. That's another thing, Chris. Good point. That must have been fucking traumatizing, but yeah, you don't know the condition of the road. You don't know if someone's just spilt a load of fucking oil all over it. And all these people who drive like the fucking Ayrton Senna, you know what happened to Ayrton Senna, don't you? Graham NCP is in tatters. No claims bonus, says Captain Coconut. Well, yeah, I mean, I never had to use me no claims bonus, but one day if I do. And Mr. Tiss says, I've driven 50 years, only ever had 3 points for going 34 in a 30 zone. Sadly, there wasn't a French Graham to step in when I got a ticket in France due to not activating the ticket they thought they had bought. Yeah, Oscar, exactly. Oscar H, you're completely right there. Just for something like that, you bought the ticket, but you had to activate it, and you're like a foreigner, and you're like, come on. But yeah, some people put them in a uniform. They think they're Hitler. Chris says, I remember one instance, a customer slept past his stop and I would have been lenient with him. Apart from his attitude towards me and the other staff, it cost him 150 single to London. Yeah, attitude's a big thing. And I think that's probably why, generally speaking, if it's... And I've been pulled over by the police before in other countries. I got pulled over in Morocco. I got pulled over in Australia and in New Zealand in cases where I might have been going over the speed limit, but I wasn't quite sure what the speed limit was. Where I've just been nice. I've just been really nice. I just put on the charm, and this is really important. Like I keep saying to Kat, do you ever notice how much free stuff I get? Because every time, not every time, but when I go into a restaurant or a cafe or I go, anything with a customer facing role, I take the time to ask how are they having a nice day? The person who's serving me, have a laugh with them, have a bit of a chat. Because I've done that. I've worked in bars, I've worked in front-facing roles, and people who just turn up and go, 2 pints of lager. There's okay, great. That's just work. But when someone turns up and it's like, oh, how's it going? And you're getting off soon, and do you like donuts? Actually having a conversation with someone. Honestly, it works fucking wonders because these people working at these customer-facing roles, they have a lot more discretion than you would imagine. And as a result, I do tend to get a lot more free stuff than I would if I just turn up and go, flat white, please. Have a chat. Get to know people, especially if you go into the same place every day. Just to see the same people, so, oh, yeah, how's it going? Oh, yeah. Just have a bit of a natter. Just have a bit of bonhomie, whatever the fuck that means. Anyway, sorry. Do you know what? I've been rabbiting on so long. My oh god, Sunday service. That's not nice. I've now got adverts. I'm now getting adverts. It's like the tomorrow's papers .co.uk is saying to me, Graham, get back on target. Chris C, thank you so much for the super chat there, mate. That's really kind of you. Manners cost nothing but mean everything. Yeah, mate. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, it is just manners. It's the way you put yourself across, and I guarantee if you've been caught doing something wrong, you've got something wrong. The way that you respond to the person who's talking to you can make a huge difference. It's very hard to be horrible to someone who's just made you laugh, you know? And so, I don't know. And we do, I've done this myself. I have forgiven people in my life a lot more readily who make me laugh. I just have. I just fucking have. I know I shouldn't. I know I should be like, fair and equitable across the line. But if someone can make me fucking giggle, then I'm like, oh, it's all right. I'll let you off. Whereas there's someone who's like sullen and serious all the time, like, and you're not getting away with anything. You're not getting away with anything, motherfucker. Right, talking about getting away with things, bad enough. When did the UK decide China was not a threat? And there is a picture of the Beckhams there, Posh Becks, and thick and thin there, at the Curzon Mayfair for the premiere of a documentary about her life as a designer. Apparently, she had, I think she had anorexia. I think has come out, which doesn't surprise me by looking at her, but it's still quite upsetting that someone, in the public eye, who is a beautiful woman, who has felt like, what she's got is not enough and not felt happy about the way she looks. And yeah, I think that's really grim. And I can't put all the blame on David Beckham, but if it's true that he did have an affair with the woman who wanked off the pig, God, that sounds like a weird thing to say, doesn't it? On Celebrity Barnyard or whatever the fuck it was called. If he did have an affair, you could imagine how she would feel about herself, how that would make her feel. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just sad that, she obviously did get the support that she needed to help get her through that. But it just goes to show that no matter how much money or fame or prestige or how big your house is or how nice how fast your car can go, it doesn't mean that you're happy in your life, in your relationship, in yourself. And this is why, I think it's so important that we take time out to consider our own mental health and our own well-being and put that first. So long as you're not a psychopath and your well-being means that you have to go and kill people, that's no good. Don't put yourself first there. But for situations like this, it just goes back to sort of celebrities who have taken themselves out, who you would think the last people to do that, because they seem to have everything. But if you don't have your health, mental or physical, all that doesn't matter. All that other stuff doesn't matter. So I feel sorry for Posh that she went through that. I think that's really shit. Okay, so moving on. Alax stamp duty to millions. There she is. The resurgent Tory leader Kemi Badenoch vowed to unleash a dream of home ownership for millions of Tory voters. I'm sorry, but yeah, at the moment, first home, 300,000 tax free. No stamp duty on the first 300,000. So if you're buying a terraced house around here, you're not going to be spending 300,000. I'll tell you that now. And then mirror this absolutely horrific story in a moment from Celebrity Traitors and Victoria's Secret. See what they've done there, because there's a company called Victoria's Secrets that makes underwear. And this fucking horrific trial that's going on for these pair of really grotesque con artists, one of whom claimed to be Madeleine McCann. And Kate McCann, the mother of Madeleine, 18 years on, she lost her daughter in the most horrific of circumstances. And I know there's a lot of people out there going, oh, she shouldn't have left them in the room on their own while going, and having drinks and food and stuff. And I think those people are twats. I'm sorry, but I know we don't do it anymore because of this case. But there's two things, right? First of all, this is fucking rare. This hardly ever fucking happens. When was the last time a child was snatched on holiday? A British child. Hasn't happened in 18 years because it's so fucking rare. Running around going, we need to stop this. But the other thing is, for kids like me who grew up in the 80s, fucking hell, we were left to fend for ourselves. I was a latchkey kid from the age of because my parents had to work. From the age of nine. I was 9 when I got my front door key, when I was the first one home. In the winter, I'd walk home from my primary school in the dark opened the door, and it was my job to light the fucking fire. We still had a real fire, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that, like, leaving your kids and going to have some food at the restaurant downstairs wouldn't even, leaving the kids in the room, it wouldn't even cross people's minds that someone would do something as horrific as this. And this is my point about this. Like, all these people slagging off the parents of Madeleine McCann. I just think that, there's the whole, by the grace thereby, but by the grace of God go I in this, right? Not that I would do it, but people did. But what I can't get over is the fact that if that happened to me and that was my child, I could never, ever forgive myself. Ever. I know what I'm like. It would torment me night and day. And that must be what what Madeleine's parents are going through. They made one mistake. And yeah, it was a mistake. I'm not going to try and justify what they did. I think, they fucked up. But oh my God, like that is the ultimate punishment, if you regard it that way, for the crime that they committed of not leaving, their kids attended while they went off and got some food. And that mistake will haunt them. I guarantee it will haunt them, and it does haunt them for the rest of their lives. And the people out there who are very, self-righteous about all this, it's always pissed me off, because I've always felt this way. I've always felt like, the punishment for them doing something stupid and leaving their kids in the bedroom while they went and got something to eat, because they didn't imagine that someone would come along and abduct their child, because it doesn't happen. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's so vanishingly rare. So when it does happen, it is a huge, huge incident. It is a huge, cause for tabloid press to go nuts about it, because it just doesn't happen. Yeah, I just think it's so sad, this whole thing. But to have these absolute monsters, these women, stalking the McCanns and pretending to be their child, that is fucking sick. That is beyond, for me. That is some twisted, fucked up shit that you would have to do that to another human being, a grieving mother and father. Because don't forget, like, if your kid dies, it's the worst, right? It's the fucking worst. But at least you have closure. I know that doesn't sound like much in such a dark circumstance, but at least you can let it go, not let go necessarily the grief or the longing to be with your child, but at least you can say, okay, my kid is gone. They're not coming back. Whereas for the McCanns, for the rest of their lives, they're never going to know if Madeleine is alive or dead. She is probably dead, balance of probability, but they don't know. And that uncertainty is going to stay with them for the rest of their lives. And then to have this woman turn up and say, I'm your daughter, and bank off that uncertainty, I just think it is a level of psychological sadism, of torture, that it sickens me to my core. That human beings can be this cruel, can be this heartless, can be this vindictive to do this to two human beings who, they fucked up, but they paid the ultimate price. They've already done that. You don't have to make their lives any worse. You don't have to be fucking horrible to them on the internet. You don't have to pretend to be their fucking daughter. Jesus Christ, how fucked up is that? Anyway, that's my take on it. It really upsets me, this whole story. What I want most is for Maddie to be back calling me mum. That is, it's so grim. It's so grim. Anyway, we're going to the other papers, and there's this fawning story from the Daily Mail here. Fuck off. About, Kemi fires up Tories with pledge to scrap hated stamp duty. So this is the papers, the Tory papers doing the Tory press doing what they do best, blowing smoke up the arse of the Tories, and being their biggest cheerleaders. These are supposed to be newspapers, you know. But here we are. There's a newspaper that I'm going to come to in a moment that's even more over the top about this. But yeah, it does seem a bit. And then we've got So look at the way it's reported. Barnstorming speech electrifies conference. No, it didn't. Kills off plotters. No, it hasn't. Delights economists. No, it hasn't. And even sparks hopes of a revival in party fortunes. That is so far up the arse of the Tory party. They need a fucking flashlight. Victoria Beckham here. I secretly suffered from an eating disorder for years. I mean, she looked like she did. And it's going back to this whole thing about, people not feeling happy about how they look. Victoria Beckham, beautiful woman, married to a very famous rich footballer, made all the money with the Spice Girls, and then she went on to run her own successful business empire, which was successful in its own right. She's done really well for herself. She is the archetypal woman who has it all, the family and the money and the cars and everything. And yet she wasn't happy. She looked at herself in the mirror and didn't like what she saw. And that is so human. And it's why we should have compassion for people. Maybe not J.K. Rowling, but people who aren't being particularly horrible. But we have people who just hate posh spice because they just do. I don't like her. Same with Meghan Markle. Don't like her. Just don't like her. Just something about her. She's arrogant. She didn't say the right thing at that thing once. And it's like, yeah, I think when people are going through some shit, I think we should have compassion for them. And when they talk about it, good. I'm glad that Victoria Beckham's talked about that. I'm glad that Meghan Markle talked about her mental health when she was sort of trapped, when she was felt trapped when she was pregnant and living in Britain. Because it helps other people. It helps people like me. It helps people like you understand that things aren't perfect for anyone, and no matter how polished and how filtered people's Instagram lives are, the reality is we are all little squishy humans with these eternally complex brains that don't always work in the way that we'd hope. Morning Brew. What have we got here? Biggest fear for HGV drivers, the brakes failing, says Chris C. Yeah. Which is why a HGV driver driving up your arse is a fucking disgrace. Absolute disgrace. That should be instant disqualification. If they should have on, if they're going to have cameras on the motorways, on these so-called smart motorways, I think they need tailgating cameras. And if you tailgate, you get 3 points. And if you're tailgating in a HGV, that's it. You get your license. You get your HGV license taken off you. We've got the technology. We've got the technology now to do people for tailgating, because it is incredibly, incredibly dangerous. But yeah, I think once the DPD have been, I'll go out for the rest of the day, have a bit of me time. Yeah, good plan, Chris. Go catch some Pokemon. Elle says, Chris, near me is a cafe that did a full English for £3.75. That was before COVID. I've not been there since. I always cook now. Yeah, I mean, where I live in Durham, there's not much around here. Do you know what I mean? If you want anything, you got to go into town, which I find really sad because they're all villages. It's not like suburbs where one suburb bleeds into another. Around here, it's villages, and you got to walk a mile to the next village. So it's just little clusters of houses, and then countryside in between. And I think that every village should have, a little pub, a little cafe, a little post office. That's what I think. But around here in Pit villages, they don't. You hear the word village, and I know what you're thinking. Especially if you live in a city, is like those picture postcards, Carmel in the Lake District idea of this little habitation where there's a little chocolate shop and a little souvenir place. It's not like that at all around here. It's all fucking. When you do get a pub, it's going to be a flat roof pub. The cafes of You know, it's not like there's a really nice one called the what's it called? The Dairy Barn. It's in a place called Bitchburn. I mean, fucking hell, what a name for a place. Bitchburn. Fucking hell. Anyway, so on Bitchburn, I believe burn is a word, an old word for a brook. So Bitchburn, okay, whatever. But there's a place called the Dairy Barn, and it's this little cafe, and it does amazing cakes, and it looks out over the hills, and it's such a lovely place to have coffee. You sit outside, they've got like a kids play area and that. But it's like a 20-25 minute drive there, and then you got to drive back. I'm like, to go and have a cup of coffee. That's not really what you want. But then again, when I lived in Manchester, it was very hard to find a Greasy Spoon cafe in Manchester when I was there in 1997 that did a full English, because a lot of the cafes were halal, so they didn't do pork sausages, they didn't do bacon. You get a beef sausage. There used to be a place where you could get a really good full English on the shopping parade on the outside of Whitworth Park. That was good for a hangover, but it closed down. It closed down while we were there, actually. And so the only options were really kebab places like Abdul's and places to get pizzas. Anyway, so I'm going to go back to the papers now. There you go. Daily Telegraph just absolutely fawning over the Tory leader because someone's possibly slipped them a fiver to do this. This is the Kemi we have waited too long to see. Her pledge to abolish stamp duty. That's basically her only pledge that she came out with in this fucking speech. Her pledge to abolish stamp duty will be received in my neck of the woods like the fall of communism. Hyperbole, anyone? Front page, Daily Telegraph, huge picture there. And then we've got the rest of the news down here. Case challenges Starmer over China. So this is trying to draw out this collapse of this China case. We talked about this yesterday. Digital ID will be used to access tax records. No thanks. The McCanns confront fake Madeline in court, which we talked about there. I'm sorry. I get quite emotional about this because I am empathetic. I get that from my mum, and I could just see if I was in the position of Kate and Gary McCann, how I would feel. And it was just just how it would affect me. Someone doing this, Jerry, sorry, not Gary. It would destroy me. I know what I'd be like. I know how it would affect me, and so I can sort of put myself in someone else's shoes and feel the empathy for what they've gone through already, and now having to go to court over this bullshit. Don't forget, the parents of Madeline are kind of also victims of in all this. They didn't kill their daughter. Someone else did, and whoever did it is still out there. If you're male and come from Bitchburn, can you be called a son of Bitchburn? Yes, son of a Bitchburn. Says Fair Computer. It's a horrible name for a place, but it's a beautiful little place. It's sat in the countryside. It's lovely. I love the Dairy Barn. I mean, Durham city centre does have some really nice cafes. It's got Vennels and it's got Riverside. And, I mean, Durham City is this really dramatic site. It's got this hairpin curve in the Weir, hairpin bend in the Weir River, which has been, carved out through. I've gone really bright because the sun's come out. I'm just going to adjust my camera. 1 moment. Really, really, it's been carved out by glaciers a glacier back in the day, and so you have this like big dip, massive, 50-meter dip. It might be 100 meters actually. It's between the one side of the river, and then you got this huge dip into the river, and then you got the other side which is just as high, and the others, and you got the castle and the cathedral on there, and it just looks amazing. Looks absolutely amazing. Anyway, so Captain Coconut, a hangover is usually based on the diametric effect of alcohol that drains water from the brain and causes the headache. The energy drink is good, but it's the water that we need. Yeah, you need water. You need electrolytes as well. There's a place in Austria called Wank. Yeah, there's a whole area called fucking Wankenstadt or something. Like it's not just like the city of or the town of Wank is in a place called like Greater Wank. Effectively, were they the ones who kept getting their sign robbed? Wasn't there a place and it just had like a ridiculous name and everyone came and robbed the sign? Fuck, I think it was Fuck. There's a place in Germany, isn't there, called Fuck, and people were just like stealing the sign or doing something under the sign. Doing what the sign told them to do, I guess. Celebrity Traitors, getting 5 out of 5 there. I haven't watched it, but I believe it's very good. I might indulge that. Ministers to commit to overhaul of licensing laws and push for growth. Plan to let pubs and clubs open later. A charter for chaos, says health experts. Pubs, clubs, and restaurants will be able to allowed to open into the early hours as part of government's economic growth push that critics say will lead to more drunken disorder. I've got to say, a lot of places that I love in Liverpool are open all fucking night, so I don't really see this as a problem. I think it's a problem when everyone leaves the pub at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what used to happen. Or sorry, not the pub, the clubs at 2 o'clock in the morning, or left the pubs at half 11 as it used to be. I don't really have a problem with this as long as it's as long as there are things in place to help people who suffer from alcoholism or any kind of violent disorders, instead of it just being, oh, you got into a fight, here's 50 quid. We're going to fine you 50 quid. They actually get the help that they need to sort out whatever issues they're going through. And there's Kemi Badenoch. Has Badenoch done enough to save her party? Nope. Everyone will have forgotten tomorrow. And then we've got scale of children suffering in Gaza. It's been revealed almost 55,000 children in Gaza are estimated to be acutely malnourished, far more than have so far been identified as victims of potentially lethal condition. A study published by The Lancet has revealed. We've also got the AI bubble at risk of bursting, says Bank of England, something I've been saying for a long time. The AI bubble's going to burst. I don't think that the AI is going to take over the world. I don't think it's going to cause the end of civilization, but there are some signs that there are some parallels with the dot-com bubble, for those of us who are old enough to remember that from 25 years ago. India Airport, Modi opens new $2 billion hub in Mumbai, formerly Bombay. And then we've got IMF and Bank of England warn that AI boom risks abrupt market correction. Valuations at dot-com levels. I'm sorry, but I called this. I'm going to take all the credit for this, like Trump. I'm going to take all the credit for saying that this was going to happen. Starcast official warns on Starcast. Sorry, I said that a bit weird, didn't I? Starcast official warning on frenzy. Nvidia's Hung plays down fears, and collapse of China's spying case shows the UK can be bullied, and I don't think that is incorrect. And there's a Nobel Prize there, that coin on the left of the screen. That's actually the Nobel Prize. And Trump's Nobel lobbying overshadows the Peace Prize. Yeah, he's lobbying quite hard. All the way. Up the lobbying. Right, the iPaper here. Next, Badenoch's move to axe stamp duty piles pressure on Reeves' budget. I mean, Reeves could steal a march from it and just go, yeah, we're abolishing it up to 500,000. I don't think many people who vote Labour would be able to buy a first-time house for more than 500,000. So, Then we've got Katie Rosensky saying how Victoria Beckham pulled off a personal rebrand many stars would envy. I didn't know she'd rebranded, but there you go. Okay. Badenoch bets the House on promise to end stamp duty. Tories £9 billion pledge £9 billion to scrap bad tax on main homes in bid to help struggling first-time buyers and boost poll ratings after lackluster party conference overshadowed by rise of refuck. Yeah, I mean, she's bet the House. She's bet the House on this, and Rachel Reeves can pull the rug from under the house. Never build a house on a rug, because it can be whipped out from under you. And then again, going back to the Madeleine McCann story, my Maddie hoax, agony, imposter contacting other daughter was the final straw, Kate tells court. Accused stands by story and cries out, "Why are you doing this to me?" She's obviously got some serious mental health problems. This woman who was pretended to be Madeleine McCann, which is just so fucked. It's just so fucked. Anyway, so I'm gonna leave it in the moment, because we have gone on for an hour and a half, which is good. I actually started on time today. Did anyone notice? That was thanks to my beautiful partner in crime, Catherine, who came down and turned the computer on for me. Because sometimes I just forget, my computer takes ages to boot up. So sometimes I'm ready. I'm all ready to go. I've done all my research. I've got my notes all ready, and I sit down. I press the button to go, and I'm I don't know, 3 minutes to 9, and then 5 minutes later, I'm still sitting there going, wait for everything to fucking boot up. So yeah, thanks to Kat for pressing the button for me this morning to allow us to actually start at 9 o'clock. Before we go, I do want to chat about the film that I watched last night, which is called One Battle After Another, which I kind of wish I'd seen at the Toronto Film Festival. It was on at the Toronto Film Festival, but I missed it. It starred Leonardo DiCaprio and Benicio del Toro and Sean Penn, and I forgot the name of the actresses in it, which I should really find out, which I'm going to find out, because I feel bad if I just mention the male actors and I don't mention the female actors. One Battle After Another. It's the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie, the guy who did There Will Be Blood and Magnolia. It stars Regina Hall and Teyana Taylor, who are both fucking fantastic in it. Abolishing stamp duty will just add inflation, says Paula. Yeah, I agree. I agree, which is why, we've already got the situation. Thank you so much, Paula, for that super chat. We've already got the situation where it's 300,000 on your first home is tax free, right? Stamp duty tax free, right? Just put it up to 500,000. Just do that in the budget and just pull the rug from under Kemi Badenoch. It'll be hilarious. Go on, it's your chance to do the funniest thing, Rachel. But yeah, I just want to talk about One Battle After Another. So, like I say, Paul Thomas Anderson, and it is just. It's a very long movie. It seems to go on forever. What was it? 162 minutes. So it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. It is. So it is quite a long movie, but it feels like 3 different films. And it's got elements of Tarantino. It's got elements of The Big Lebowski. It kept reminding me of The Big Lebowski, which is one of my favorite films, the Coen Brothers film. It's got elements of that. It's got some classic sort of Paul Thomas Anderson sort of bits to it, but you just don't know where it's going. It's like, where the fuck is it? And I love that. I hate films that are just ridiculously predictable and they go the way that you think they're gonna go. This does not necessarily go the way you think it's gonna go. It has some amazing twists and turns, and it's very funny. It's a really funny action political thriller. It's about a washed up ex-revolutionary who what can I say, the ghosts of his past come to haunt him, but he's spent the last 16 years just drinking and getting high. And he's not in the right mental state for all the shit that's about to come down on him. Hence why I think it's got some connections with The Big Lebowski. Really recommend it. Really enjoyable. I don't know. It might not be for anyone, but I checked on Rotten Tomatoes this morning, and it's got a 95% approval rating, and it's one of the front runners for Oscar glory come next Feb. So we'll see. Great film. Sean Penn was so good. Yeah, I normally don't like Sean Penn. Sean Penn usually annoys me in a film, but in this, I thought he was perfectly cast. It's a very satisfying movie, I've got to say. It's very, very well put together. And like I said, it's very funny. I mean, lots and lots of laugh out loud moments for me anyway. Me and Ben Chambers might have been the only two laughing in the cinema, but, you know, we thought it was fun. John says, watch Denise Goff, Dendra from Andor interview with Mehdi, including her backstory. Amazing. Well, I mean, Andor, her performance in Andor was fucking amazing. Another very, very satisfying, for those who have seen it, you know, that the level of satisfaction you get at the end of her story, where you're like, ha! Same sort of thing in one battle after another. There is a very much of a ha moment, which I love in a movie, where you're like, ha, justice is done, motherfucker. Sean Penn was really good in Milk. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, just I don't know why. I just don't like him. It's just something about him sort of gets my back up. Spider-Man 3, don't get me started. Everything was wrong. Venom was wrong. Pacing was off. It's a shame after Spider-Man 2 being amazing. It was but it wasn't the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That was a different film. But yes, too many baddies, and retrospectively changing the backstory about the death of Uncle Ben. Don't do that. Don't do that in movies. I hate it when they do that in movies. Well, that's what you thought happened, but what actually happened? Oh, hey! Fuck off. Michael Penn's One Wonder Hit in the 1980s still good. Who's Michael Penn? Don't get me started on emo Spider-Man, Bully Maguire. What was that all about? Emo Spider-Man. He gets his fucking emo hairstyles. This is My Chemical Romance. What was that all about? Tommy says, I know what you mean. Not too keen on Sean Penn myself. Yeah, something about it. Just don't like him. But he's very good. He's very good at this movie. So there you go. The films that make you go, yeah, I did this one. One battle after another. It felt like a Sunday afternoon matinee film. Because it is long, but it's just one of those films. Just sit down, relax, just enjoy it. You don't have to think about it too hard. It's just, you know, it's just a fun film. There you go. It's got some standout moments and some really nice set pieces, and Benicio del Toro is just fucking amazing. I just love that man. He's so good in it. Anyway, so yeah, my recommendation for that. So this evening I am pre-recording Sunday Roast with Alex and other people for the for Political X's channel. We're doing that 6:30 till 7:30 tonight. I don't know if I'll be doing another show. I'm just trying to get a few things set up at the moment. Me and Mike Dix are working on a show for this channel. I don't think things are quite ready yet, but we will hopefully have that for you to watch soon, and it'll probably be slotting into either Wednesday nights or Thursday nights on this channel. So look out for that. But otherwise, I will return in the morning, 9 o'clock, bright and early, bright and breezy, for a packed day of politics socialing. At 1 o'clock, we've got the agenda with Phil Morehouse, and we'll be discussing how Shakespeare is awesome. Again, no, we're not. We're going to be talking about politics. Try not to get us too sidetracked. And then in the evening, we'll be here for, hopefully you'll be here as well, for the Friday night social. We're getting a couple of mates to come and sit and have a chat with us about what's going on in the world, tell a few jokes, a bit of bant, a bit of humour, a bit of like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? Because you need that, don't you? At the end of a long week. So please join us for that. And until then, I just want to say thank you so much, especially to Plum Duff for the mega chat. That was really kind. And everyone who's dropped a super chat in this morning, thanks for the kind comments and for being respectful. And a nice little community. For those of you who are new members here, if you go onto the wall or whatever the fuck it's called, you know, where you post things, the place where you post things on YouTube, you should now have access to a members only post, which has a link in it to the Discord server. And if you head over there, someone will be able to help you out over there. Maybe One Angry Pagan, who I made an admin yesterday. So hopefully you'll be able to sort out being able to join. It's just a bulletin board. It's a bulletin board with video capabilities if you want to use that. But feel free to continue the conversation over there. Okay, give us a like. We like a like on this channel. We like to have a like. It doesn't cost anything, but please consider giving us a like on the way out. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.